Thanks everyone for coming to our talk. Thanks to the conference organizers for all of their hard work. And also thanks to our colleagues here at Suffolk Public Library for putting up with this. Hi everyone, and welcome to our presentation. My name is Matt Thompson.
And I'm Ashley Reed.
And we're from Suffolk Public Library in Suffolk, Virginia. And we're speaking to you today on the field trips that we organize for adult ESL students in our library's ESL program. I'm going to start by talking to you briefly about Suffolk, Virginia. We're located in Southeast Virginia. We're part of this community known as Hampton Roads. And Suffolk is this yellow shape right here. That entire thing is the city of Suffolk. It is the largest city in Virginia by land area and the 16th largest city by land area in the United States, but the population is just about 95,000. There's a historic downtown and a booming suburb in the northern part of town, and rural land all around. There's giant swamp. Our land is very flat and wet. You see this is the Nansemond River, which runs into the heart of Suffolk, and all this drains into the Chesapeake Bay. Suffolk Public Library has two main branches. There's the North Suffolk Library and the Morgan Memorial Library. We also have a rural branch called the Chuckatuck Library. It is only open one day a week due to pandemic restrictions. We also have a bookmobile for library outreach. Ashley has been teaching this ESL class since about 2018. I've been participating in it since about 2019. We see a lot of Spanish speakers. That's probably the most popular group. We see a lot of Korean speakers as well as Arabic speakers, but it's very diverse. I've seen French-speaking Africans, people from all over Europe.
Brazilian Portuguese speakers.
Japanese, yeah. Many of our students are young mothers. And when we were meeting in person, a lot of them brought their children with them. Now that we've transitioned to an online format, we see a lot of international students as well. We regularly have students tune in from Japan, Italy, and Sudan.
So our ESL class is a little bit different because we are a library and not a school. When you have a ESL program hosted by a school, students usually begin by taking an assessment of some sort or a placement test. There'll be a registration process. There might be a fee, but that's not the case with our program. We don't really do any of that. If you want to come to class, all you have to do is show up. We don't charge for anything that we do. We don't require that folks have a library card. So between the low commitment and no cost, this really encourages people to stop by and check us out. Our students are welcome to come and go as their schedules allow. So they come when they can, and if they miss a class, it's no big deal. Because there is very, very low commitment, the number of students who do show up to class can be really unpredictable, as well as the proficiency levels of the students showing up for class. So class is very informal. We do present lessons that cover specific language learning topics, but we also let the students have a voice in the pace and direction of the class. So we talk about ourselves, we talk about our lives, our families, our experiences of American culture. And again, because we are a library and not a school, the emphasis is not only on learning English, but also to create a sense of community for our students. So in 2019, when Matt joined our ESL program, we were able to split our one very large class into two classes, one more advanced and one more beginner. And this was really great from an instructional perspective because we were able to present more targeted content now. But like I mentioned earlier, one of our primary objectives is for students to make friends and build networks. And so we were concerned that that feature of our ESL program would be diminished with our split classes. Our ESL class is not like other ESL classes because we're a library, but also our ESL class is not like other adult library programs. So we meet every week, and we have continuously since May 2018, except for the weeks that I take vacation. And that's not how most adult library programs go. We were directed to build in regularly occurring breaks to avoid programmer burnout, which is a standard feature of our library programs. So we had all these things in play in mind when we started thinking about how to implement field trips. Matt is going to give you some more information about that process in this next slide.
So class is structured with the students spending 5 weeks in class receiving instruction from Ashley. And then on the 6th week, we have a field trip. That's usually when I get involved. We select the locations, giving some consideration to the language content that the students have been working on in class. We might even take into account recent holidays, current events, what season it is, and really what Suffolk has to offer at that moment. Once we have an idea of where we want to go, usually I'm reaching out about 2 weeks in advance to set things up ahead of time. Most of the time, I would say people are excited to work with us. It's very rare that anyone would ever turn us down, although that does happen. And in the classes that are leading up to the trip, Ashley prepares them maybe with like some special vocabulary that fits the place that we're going to go visit or the activity that we're going to join in with. There might be something in class that ties into the field trip, and Ashley will share articles or like things that she finds on the internet that are related to it. We have a WhatsApp chat group, and that's a useful way for keeping in touch with the students. On the day of the trip, I have the gear with me. I have a tripod and an iPad that fits into it. We connect to the internet through a Wi-Fi hotspot, and I bring up Zoom on the iPad. The students see and hear with the iPad everything that's going on around us, and I carry it around and interact with people at the field site.
So obviously when we were putting together field trips, we were hoping to address some of our organizational needs and ensure that our program goals were being met, but also there are a lot of benefits to taking these field trips for our students. One of the biggest ones that one of the ones I think is huge is that we are able to help enhance students' confidence to advocate for themselves. It might be finding out the right words to describe the kind of haircut you want, or learning about what to expect from a visit to the bank, or, and this one was huge for them, the detailed policy of Kohl's Cash. So all of these things are important to them in their daily lives and help them get their needs met. So it's huge. Another benefit of taking these field trips is that we're able to create some positive language learning experiences. We all know that language learning is really hard. And so with these field trips, we are able to have just a genuinely positive, enjoyable experience. We do things like look at art and admire gardens and learn about local wildlife and things like that. So hopefully our students find them as just genuinely enjoyable as we do. Another benefit is that these field trips encourage cultural exchange. We are obviously sharing a lot of local culture and American culture with our students, but what we're really hoping is that these are starting points for them to share about their own culture, about their own background and interests. And so we've seen this demonstrated really clearly a few times. Once was at the bakery when our students admired her baked goods and then responded with their own recipes for her to try. So there was some exchange back and forth of recipes and ideas, and that was really neat to watch. We also, these field trips create a really casual social atmosphere that seems to be conducive to sharing for our students. When we ride all together in the vans, our students act as DJ, and they put together the playlist that we listen to on the drive there. So it's some encourages some of these casual moments of sharing between students. One of another huge benefit is that building a sense of connection and comfort for our students with their community. So this could be things like everyday service encounters they might have, to fun activities they'd like to do with their families, or even having their voice heard by their local representative. An unexpected benefit that I hadn't anticipated prior to starting these field trips was that we get to introduce Suffolk residents to people from diverse backgrounds. So the community gets opportunity to get more familiar interacting with folks from diverse backgrounds with varying levels of English language proficiency. We found that most of our guest hosts, speakers, are excited to do this, but sometimes don't know what they're doing or don't really, know what modifications they need to make to their usual practices. So we've had like the staff at the hair salon who wanted pointers about being conscientious communicators, and our local meteorologist, he translated some of his more technical vocabulary into Spanish so that he was better able to connect with students. And when we were at the art gallery, the curator constantly checking in to see if she was doing okay, if there were any problems with communication. So it's been really great to see not only our students, growing more comfortable in their own community, but also to see the community growing more familiar with more diverse folks. So I've mentioned a few of the field trips that we've taken, but Matt is going to dive in and elaborate on those.
So these are some of the different types of field trips that we've been on. The in-person field trips are where we started. This was in 2019, before the pandemic, and we were looking for places that were close to our library branch so that we could drive there. The ESL class is only an hour long, so we didn't want to be in the car forever. We wanted to have the most amount of time at our place, enjoying whatever experience it was. And basically thinking about locations that would be relevant to the students' everyday lives. So we were hoping that maybe this experience would be useful for them somewhere down the road when they were at the bank or when they're at the pharmacy. And then Ashley mentioned the hair salon is the other one. After the pandemic, the library put a freeze on in-person programming, And we transitioned the ESL class to a virtual format, and we were looking for ways to continue with the field trip idea. And that's where we happened upon the virtual guest speakers. The idea here was to give students the opportunity to interact with somebody who maybe they wouldn't get to meet ordinarily. So we met with the director of a local wildlife preserve. We met Shelley Simons, who is a delegate in the Virginia State Legislature, and even our local TV weatherman, Jeremy Wheeler, came. And we also have these virtual on-location visits. And this is where we take a mobile setup and Zoom with our students at different places around Suffolk. Our first trip was to the Suffolk Art Gallery. And at this point, the art gallery was also closed to the public and looking for ways to promote their collections virtually. So we came to the gallery and we got basically a private tour with the curator. And at this time, we were really concerned to address our students' experiences of social isolation and loneliness during this stage of the pandemic, when people couldn't leave their houses and these businesses couldn't reach their customers. And so we were giving them an opportunity to do things together at a time when we were all shut down. So here you see the Zuni alpaca and Christmas tree farm. We went there around Christmas time and learned about growing Christmas trees. And then in the spring, when the gardens are in bloom, we visited with our local master gardener, Wanda. And in the video segment to come next, you're going to see our most recent virtual field trip at the East Suffolk Recreation Center. And we want to thank our colleague, Mara Zerflu, for shooting the video of us streaming on Zoom.
Making us feel like celebrities.
And also our guest speaker, Jason Jones, who's supervisor of the Rec Center. So here we are, about to begin our latest ESL field trip, and we're at the East Suffolk Recreation Center. And I have a tripod with a clamp that clamps down on this iPad. And this is how I'm going to broadcast our interaction with our guest speaker. Ashley's got a cell phone that can also double as a hotspot. We came out to this facility. We're a little bit lucky because this one has a free Wi-Fi network. So that's going to be really great for maintaining the live stream of the video. And then it's just a matter of logging on to the Wi-Fi from the device and opening Zoom. And Ashley has already told the students that today's going to be a special class.
They know what to expect.
So they know what to expect. And we're going to go inside and meet our guest speaker and try and get things rolling.
Welcome to the East Suffolk Recreation Center. I'm a recreation supervisor here with Suffolk Parks and Recreation Department. And this is our East Suffolk Recreation Center. I'd love to give you a tour and let you see what it's all about.
Kathy is joining us from Japan.
Oh, okay. Ohio.
Hi. Hey, dude. Hi, Ohio.
Hey, that was good.
Thank you.
So how long has the rec center been here?
We opened this building back open in 2009. That was when the city decided to turn the building over and repurpose it. The school had been sitting dormant for quite a long time, and instead of letting this beautiful building go to waste, the city decided to repurpose it.
What about you guys? Anybody gonna volunteer to get here at what, like 5:30 to open the building?
Right.
In the morning? Does that sound good?
Kind of quiet.
I'm a kind of night guy, so if I were there, I won't.
Nighttime.
Night shift.
Okay.
Evening.
Muhammad's a night owl.
Okay.
Gina, how about you? Would you like to come in the morning or at night?
In the morning, because in the morning I have time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you come inside, these separate.
Good morning. We're back here. This is our main reception area when we come in.
There's a welcome desk.
There we go.
There's staff here to help you as soon as you walk in.
That's right. We got our wonderful welcoming staff that are here.
Hi folks, we're from the library, and we have our class of English language learners today, and we are giving them a tour of your facility.
Christina and Shantae here. And they are some of our awesome staff that we have here to welcome people when they come in the building. So it's kind of like somewhat of a museum as well. We have different artifacts from the graduating classes and from students that used to attend this school back in the day. So as we walk this way, you can see we have what we call a Letterman jacket. So this is a jacket that many of the athletes will receive. This person has baseball stitched on there and the football. So obviously they played baseball and football on the letter E. You can see right there, and that's a jacket that if you were an athlete, you had the honor of receiving one of those.
This is a little bit of American culture. The Letterman jacket is it's an important statement, especially for boys in high school, to have this jacket that shows be true to your school, like the Beach Boys song.
Status.
I'll share "Be True to Your School" on the WhatsApp later.
There you go.
Does anybody know how to play pool?
Not to play what?
Pool. So billiards or pool, it's sometimes called. All right, so you're getting a demonstration here.
So this is a cue ball.
All right, here he goes. Okay, so you're trying to get your balls in the pocket and not the other person's
Right.
balls in the pocket.
Correct.
And you use what's called the cue ball, that white ball, and that's you knock it around trying to get your balls in the pocket.
Bad shot.
I am no good at this. I feel like you have to know geometry in order to.
So that was a pretty great one.
Yeah, we had good attendance. The
Good.
folks were interested.
Yeah. And the speaker was really good.
hmm He seemed excited to do it and excited to share his facility and.
A lot of time, people don't know what to expect, and they're kind of maybe a little bit nervous, and so he seemed to open up over the course of the interaction, and by the end he was like a game show host. He was like, "Come on and follow me," and
flexing for the camera.
yeah,
and stuff.
he got into it.
Yeah, definitely. His personality helped for sure, and he was very thorough and knowledgeable.
And friendly.
And friendly.
Yeah.
I think that their organizational goals are similar to ours as far as being open and accessible. So, yeah, it's a great fit.
Another good one in the can.
The next thing that I'm going to talk about is what makes for a good field trip, because while a lot of them have been good, some of them haven't. So we were trying to think about, what kind of features make for a good field trip. And one of the biggest is student engagement and interest. That can really make the whole thing. When we took our field trip to Kohl's, our students were really interested and really engaged. And
They grilled that manager.
They grilled the manager.
They had questions about making returns. They had questions about their coupons.
I kind of expected that maybe we would talk about employment and what it's like to work at Kohl's. But when we got the manager on camera, they all had lots of questions about store policies and
Mhm.
things like that. So it was unexpected interest, but they were really interested and really engaged, and it was a really great field trip for us.
At the bakery, Carla said that she was going to come the next day
Yeah.
to get the treats. And
So another feature of good field trips is having a host with great personality. And this can be a little bit hard to predict. It helps if you have a previous relationship with them. But they can really, get student interest going and student participation going. When we, like Matt was saying, went to the bakery, to Sugar Mama's Bakery, and that's Sandra there in the purple in the middle. She was incredibly smart and chatty and witty. She was really engaging with the students. She was asking them questions. At one point, she abandoned Matt and I
she took my
in
iPad,
the lobby and took the iPad in the back to
went
show
into
them
the kitchen.
The students were not only hearing about her cakes and treats, but they were offering her recipe suggestions from their own favorite recipes. So that was a cool exchange to watch, and the students definitely enjoyed that one. Another feature of good field trips is that they offer a variety of paths to student engagement. So whether it's visual content that they can engage with, or if it's a speaker, sharing information orally, if there's more than one avenue for them to get involved, then you're going to have greater student participation, and that really makes for a great field trip.
So in conclusion, the ESL field trips offer a lot of benefits to students. It gives them a chance to feel more confident speaking English in a real world setting, and gives them the chance to have a positive experience being out and doing things in Suffolk. We hope that it gives the opportunity for real, genuine cultural exchange. We've seen it happen a couple of times. And it really helps to build a sense of connection and community among the students and between the students and their community.
Because Matt and I like doing them and our students like doing them, we're going to continue doing field trips, but we've tried to give some thought about what changes we would make, or what that might look like going forward. And some of the things that we've talked about are increasing student involvement in planning and leading the field trips. We would love to turn over some more of the control to the students and let them take charge of these in a way that feels comfortable for them. Both our local and our international students, I think we could figure out a way for them all to participate if they would like. We also, we mentioned earlier that our guest speakers are usually enthusiastic, but sometimes
they don't always know what they're getting themselves
don't know what
into.
they're getting themselves into. And so they'll ask for pointers, or like, what sort of things do I need to know, or modifications. So we've talked about putting together some sort of guide for our guest speakers, so that hopefully they feel confident going into oriented
Yeah.
and when they're going into these encounters with us. And the last one that Matt had brought up is getting back to including in-person participants. Per our city's guidance, we've been able to have in-person participants, I don't know, for a month or two now, but we haven't yet gotten any of our students to join us in person for field trips
these
yet.
particular programs.
And so eventually we would like for our program to be truly hybrid, so that folks can attend virtually or in person. But like I said, we really enjoy these and our students enjoy them. So we plan on continuing them.
So this concludes the pre-recorded part of our presentation, and stay tuned for Matt and Ashley in real life for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you both so much for your excellent presentation. You're getting a lot of love in the chat. A lot of folks are feeling really inspired by the work that you've done. If any attendees have questions, please drop them in the Q&A box. I'll start off with some questions from there and then take a few questions that appeared in the chat as well. So Daniela says, I love this. And how would you promote this program to people who might not be tech savvy?
Well, they can come in person. So far, since the pandemic, nobody has chosen to come in person, but they could. So that's an option. We do have a lot of our students are joining on cell phones and tablets and things like that. So it's definitely a concern or consideration of like, what does this look like on the kind of device that they have, and giving some considerations to their technology access.
There was definitely some trial and error early on in the pandemic as we experimented with different platforms. Ultimately, we decided that Zoom had the best user interface especially for people who are less tech savvy. And over the past 3 years or so, we've done, I think, 15 of these field trips. So we're also getting better at framing them and presenting them.
Excellent, thank you. Erica asks, what is the turnover for students? How many students come back versus just coming a couple of times? And how do you boost continuity in your classes?
That's the big one.
Yeah. So from a teaching perspective, that makes things really hard and different than teaching in a school. It varies. We have like a core set of folks who come regularly almost every week unless something's happening. And then we kind of have like another set that come in and out occasionally. And then there's some folks who just drop in once or twice and don't come back. On Wednesday this week, I had my regular students show up in our Zoom class, and actually some in person as well. And then all of a sudden, 4 or 5 people, from somebody in Spain, somebody from all over the globe, all of a sudden dropped in. And so flexibility is the name of the game. As far as our local students, they are looking to mostly connect, in addition to learning language, but looking to connect with the community and build networks. And I think that really drives, their participation as well. I had my student who came on Wednesday. She's been coming since the very beginning. So she's been, 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. And she actually acts almost like a volunteer, and she helps us facilitate the WhatsApp group. And she's a Spanish speaker, and she does a lot of translating for us and that sort of thing. But yeah, continuity and can be a challenge sometimes, for sure.
I'll move to a few questions from chat. Bev asks, how did students get to the in-person locations? Were they in walking distance, or were they expected to drive? And my follow-up question to that is, did you have to create a liability waiver for students who were being transported to your program?
You don't.
We took students in the library fleet vehicles. We have a couple of passenger vans, and we just all piled in there. And we're choosing locations that were nearby the branch library because the class is only an hour long. We didn't want to waste a lot of time driving. There are a fair number of rules about using the library vehicles, and we do have to be trained to drive them. Liability waiver, never heard of her.
Understandable.
I actually really like the car trips. It's a few minutes for everybody's feeling social and casual and chatting and put this song on and no, listen to that one. And we get to, have those moments of sharing. And so the drives, I actually like them.
I feel like we had Eloina would come on the bus, and so we were definitely giving her a ride. But then there
Yeah.
were other people who followed us in their cars.
Public transportation in Suffolk is just really terrible.
Very
We're
limited.
very, very limited. And yeah, so we were aware that transportation might be an issue for folks coming in person.
We have a question from Erica about the attendees in your program. Do you have patrons from all over or mainly in Suffolk, especially when you started doing virtual trips?
When we started, so the virtual trips are like one component of our ESL class. And so when we started going virtual at the beginning of the pandemic, we actually, I think this is one of the first programs we got off the ground virtually. There was like no interruption in weeks. We were right there on it. But you go ahead.
So the class is organized with 5 weeks of instruction, and then on the 6th week we do this special field trip. And when we began, it was entirely local folks. I mean, some of folks from the neighboring city.
Hampton Roads.
Yeah, people from neighboring cities would come.
We consider them local.
And then as we made the transition to online programming, we started getting international participants. One of our regular students moved back to Italy, and then
now she comes again.
Now she comes to class from Italy, and others have found us through a Google search. We have a regular participant from Japan. We have a regular participant from Sudan in Africa. We've met students in Brazil who come to our class, as well as other states around the United States, New York and New Jersey and Maryland.
Somehow a librarian in Long Island found out about us and was referring us to a lot of people. And we would ask,
so we got a lot of New Yorkers.
About us? And they're like, well, this librarian in Long Island told me about you. So whoever she is, thank you.
But currently it's a mix of locals and international students who tune in online.
Excellent. Daniela asks, how frequent are the trips?
So the trips are once every 6 weeks, and they run from about 30 minutes to an hour. The class itself,
depending on how chatty the host and the students are.
When Ashley is teaching the class, they're an hour plus ish. But with the virtual field trips, try and be conscientious about overstaying our welcome. Often we're at other people's works, and they have jobs to do, and they're actually doing us a big favor. So we try and be considerate.
We also have a question about recordings. The question is, do you sometimes pre-record the trips for the students? And I was also curious if you record the trips so that folks can watch them if they aren't able to see them.
We are all live.
No, it's all live. It's really basic video equipment as well. It's just cell phones and iPads. We don't have a camera. We don't have video editing software. We don't have microphones, as you can tell.
We travel light.
Yeah. So a lot of that is done on the fly and not preserved.
Yeah.
But hey, everybody who's tuning in today, you are invited to join us for the virtual ESL class. I dropped the URL in the chat. It's suffolkpubliclibrary.com/ESL. And our next one is in 2 weeks. And I'm thinking blueberry picking. There's also a lavender farm in Suffolk, so maybe we'll get some pretty weather and go out into the country.
Those both sound incredible. I wanted to ask, in terms of creating continuity between the class and then the field trip, do your lessons focus on leading up to the content of the field trip, and then do you provide vocabulary and sentences for the students? Could you talk a little
Yeah,
more about that process?
we kind of I try to make sure that there's like build up to it, like you said, so that we're not just like dumping them and like, here you are in a strange place. This last time in going to the rec center, we did some like general like recreational activities type vocabulary and things like that. We also, because it's a historic rec center, I was able to share in our WhatsApp chat some articles about the building itself, and yeah, so we try to lay a foundation for where we're going and let them know like what it might be like, and to start thinking about like what kind of questions they might have going into it, or what they think might be an interesting angle to discuss it. And sometimes there's some language features that feel really like they work really well with whatever the topic of our trip is, and so we'll make sure that we take advantage of that. Sometimes it's just more like vocabulary and information and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I would add to that. Back when we were doing the in-person field trips, and we had a lot of regulars,
Mhm.
we would work with the students to write questions and then rehearse asking the questions.
Especially with the beginner student, like
Yeah.
yeah.
So, like for example, when we went to the bank, we would have the students think about, like, what would you like to ask the banker? What kind of ID do I need to open an account? And is my money really safe? And we would write those questions out to them and rehearse them a couple of times so that when we were um, in the field site, we kind of had like a mock encounter where the English learner could read their question and listen to the guest speaker try and answer it.
I also would write additional questions, and I'd have them on our little strips like
Like
everybody else
fortune
had.
cookies.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if somebody was feeling shy and wanted to participate but didn't have a question, then I could just hand them one, and they can, go off the one that I wrote. So
Prefab.
yeah, there's so going on with the like attendance. There's all different proficiency levels in this
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
group. It's yeah, a very very diverse group. So modifications like having like questions that they can just borrow and say for our beginner students makes it a lot more accessible and less intimidating. Our more advanced students probably have their own questions and follow-up questions and things like that. Um, but yeah, making it accessible to all the levels is also something we try to consider.
Absolutely. We are just about at the end of our time today. I wanted to see if you'd be able to answer two questions very briefly.
Or-
Jamie asks, what is a good time to have a break in order to avoid instructor burnout, 8 weeks, 12 weeks? And then also, have you found that evening classes have better attendance than morning classes?
Great questions. The Our program is designed with the field trip coming once every 6 weeks, but your department programs, I want to say in 12-week chunks. It's like 12 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know because I don't actually adhere to the programming breaks that well. But the idea is that we're supposed to have a pause between kind of series and sessions so that we can plan and prepare and get ourselves ready. Um, I was worried that we would lose people if we took a break for 2 weeks, or that would make things hard. So we don't really. I mean, the field trips are our breaks. That's our like fun stuff. So we do that 5 weeks of classes and then on a 6-week field trip.
And then we have tried some evening stuff and some weekend stuff, but no, those have not been better attended. And that really kind of cuts against the grain of a lot of the adult programming is usually you see adults after work, but honestly, our kind of like our target demographic is stay-at-home mothers. Very often, they are at home with their children, and their men are going out to work, and they're getting English in the workplace. But the women are more isolated at home and have fewer chances to get those social encounters and language experiences.
When we were in person and we had the two classes, we actually had a children's librarian who would sit in the middle and would kind of put up a partial barrier so parents could kind of see their kids, but still be able to concentrate on class. And then the children's librarian would provide some sort of programming for the kids so parents could bring their kids. And so that's sort of, yeah, what made it the mornings really work. I think if we didn't let them bring their kids, then we wouldn't see the people that we saw.
Thank you so much, Matthew and Ashley, for your presentation, your time, your expertise, and your service. This concludes our session for today, and we hope to see you all at our final session of the day with our closing remarks. Thank you so much.
Stephanie, for moderating.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.